Smith again, and check this out. Okay, this guy is called Tex Mars. Mars, that's what, Scottish, right? Um, I don't know how to really present this because he's speaking from a so-called, down in Texas, good old boy kind of, Christian perspective, you know, Christian researcher. He's hit and miss on things. So I don't know if I really want to do this because I don't want to bring confusion. But what I do is I take the things that he talks about, and I'll look into it, myself, just for my own personal, research. Because I will admit this, he brings up things that I don't hear mentioned too often amongst our videos, amongst our people as they're researching. Uh, he does a lot of the research into the Talmud, into the Kabbalah, into the Jewish books. He really puts the Zionist that he comes across on blast. Like he points out how was it the Supreme Court is loaded with Zionists. He at least has mentioned 10 in one of his other videos that are there, and he says this is the biggest reason why things don't get passed in our country, the important stuff. But they'll bring stupid stuff up like football's Deflategate and tell us that, it's about to go to the Supreme Court, for them to deal with. But he explains the importance of why it's bad to have Jews in office here. Like you know, he talks about, obviously like a Catholic, they think Jews first, the nation of Israel, over there in the Mediterranean, it's all about them first. And that could explain why the United States is still paying, payments to Israel, even though they didn't do anything in World War I or II to deserve to have to pay them. But the fact that the Jews say, you turned us away from coming into America when we need a refuge, now you have to pay us. So taxpayer dollars go to them, and stuff like that. So I'm just going to put it this way. If you do decide just to listen to some of his stuff for notes, or just a different perspective, just don't believe everything. Just take your notes and look things up for yourself and see what we can find to bring back to our own community, and put it into our own words. You know what I'm saying? Because there is a bias at times I've noticed, when it comes to things. So, but this right here, I think is a really good piece. Explains a lot. Like there's one video he does. I can't actually film it, the video that he does this one, because it has like the whole warning, from the FBI, 15 years in prison or 25, whatever, and $25,000 fine and all that stuff. So I'm not even gonna attempt it. But he talks about the Jews and their involvement in Hollywood, which we all know. But he goes into it a little bit deeper, or in a different perspective. He talks about taking the Kabbalah and seeing it in Hollywood. For instance, he talks about the pornography, right? The Jews love to own the pornography because they have a teaching that there's too much good in the world, so now they need to commit evil and bring evil into the world to balance out the scale, right? And he said eventually they believe that they need to let the evil overflow so the world resets itself. Basically, it's their way of saying we're going to invoke the Creator to want him to come back, so the militaries of the world can challenge him, and whatever they have in store can challenge him and stuff like that, right? But he talks about, in porn, women, yell out, "Oh God," and in the Jewish everyday life, when they finally do decide to have sex, they have a practice where they will call out the name of different gods. They don't believe in just, what's it called? I can't think of the name of it, but one God kind of, set. There's a name for it. Was it they believe in monotheism. I believe that's right. Where they believe in multiple deities, even though on the surface they'll tell us they only believe in one God. They believe in multiple gods, males, female gods, and what they believe is that they can command Satan. They can command any of the demons to do what they need for them when they need, or when they will. He goes into it and explains what he's found. So it's something that I've taken the time just to look around on Google just to see what I could find on some of these things. And I noticed some of our people are not talking about it. So maybe it's not important that we look into it with this day and age, but if we do have, maybe it's important for us to, look into it for ourselves and put our face onto these videos to bring it to our people. Because I know it's not always best to go to the people like him that are being paid to teach. These kind of, to be paid to teach messages, because we find a lot of liars. That's what I'm saying. Be careful. But at the same time, I just want to say there's stuff that he brings up that I think it would answers questions if we had this along with our studies, and I just want to say it might not be that important, but I just still want to put this out here. All right, I'm sorry for all the rambling. I'm just trying to be even kill. I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other, because I'm not trying to be a part of the media.
Ted Cruz, and he was presenting himself as a tough guy, questioning Dianne Feinstein and being hard on her, so to speak. Now, the thing with Ted Cruz is he's trying to, I think, create himself and market himself as being kind of a rising light, okay? Well, the bottom line is, as we learn in Power of Prophecy, your new newsletter, is that Senator Ted Cruz is an Israeli flunky. He's a lackey.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, he is.
That's not all. Senator, I don't know if many of you folks knew this, but Senator Ted Cruz's wife, Heidi, is a vice president of Goldman Sachs.
What?
And a hardcore globalist. She's a real pusher of globalism. So he's a ringer. So we used to call him. He's a ringer. He was placed. He's an Israeli firster. He's a Zionist, at least in sympathy. And his wife is a Goldman Sachs vice president. Okay?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is he was elected the second Tuesday in November, and within 30 days he had gone to Israel twice.
Well, there you go.
I'm 68 years old. I've never even been once, and he's already twice.
Right.
The second time he went with Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, and they had a unscheduled visit. It was called. Wasn't on his official agenda. It was just unscheduled. They both went. They met Netanyahu. Had a photo session where they shook his hands and all of that. They both went up to the Wailing Wall. I call it, voodoo.
Now this is where it's going to get. This is where I was hoping to get to sooner, because it's going to get interesting. Because if you're like myself and others like Arthur Scott, we've done like this side by side comparison to Christianity and voodoo, and I forgot all about this perspective from what he brought about voodoo. So just check this out. I think it's going to get interesting.
Central up there, and that's what it is. It's a
not Christianity. Why did I say? I mean Catholicism. The relationship between Catholicism and voodoo, not Christianity. Scratch that, please.
Place of voodoo. I mean, what they have is those little rabbis and strangely dressed Jews, and they're. I'm going to say something here because it is true. It can be traced back.
Yeah.
It's what I found about the Judaism religion. But they're up there and they're right against that wall and they're just rocking back and forth.
Well, they're not rocking. Brother Nathaniel, you probably saw his video. They're actually they're rocking in such a way as to imitate copulation with the wall.
That's true.
And
they actually are.
That's right. No
they're having copulation with the mother goddess in heaven, because in Judaism, not in the Old Testament, they don't believe this in the Old Testament. But in Judaism, they're polytheistic. They have many gods and goddesses, one of which is a mother goddess, and they have sex with her, and they're standing there, ooh, and they're doing their body that particular way, having sex or copulation with the mother goddess. Now, Americans and Christians don't realize what they're doing. A second thing is you'll notice their hair. They have little. I call them piglets.
Yeah.
They're little curly
pigtails.
coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what that is the cobra. They all have snake things because they believe in the serpent. So all of these things are true.
Yeah,
they're serpent. things coming out. They have to go to the beauty shop and have that done and so forth. So all of these things are true, but the characteristics of their religion, most Americans know very little about. They don't understand Kabbalistic Judaism at all. So, and by the way, as far as the Wailing Wall goes,
It's not even. You go ahead. I know where you're going with this. It's one of the biggest frauds in religious history.
It really is. It never was part of the original temple.
It's a Roman fort. That's all it is.
And I thought it was interesting because when I first started listening to Lex Will, he brought that up when he did his video about the third temple that is down in Brazil, right? And he brought up that that's not even the Wailing Wall that we read about in the Old Testament, that it's Alexander the Great left it in his writings or in his but he left it, the information behind that. Apparently Lex Will came across that, pointed out that was not even the Wailing Wall. This is a Roman fort. So isn't that interesting?
The Fort Antonia. And it's interesting that they go up there, and just like voodoo, they write a prayer to God, or actually to their version of it, of God, and they go up there and they do their little copulation, and they stick the prayer in the crack in the wall.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, God has never told us, write me a prayer, take it to Jerusalem, take it to the wall, and stick it in the crack. I mean, it's voodoo.
Uh-huh.
It really is. It's voodoo. But America, I have to tell you, until I was about 60 years old, I never thought of these things. I never thought of what the rabbis were doing when they were, rocking back and forth up there at the wall.
Well, what they're doing is it's a pelvic thrust. If you look at it.
Yes, it is. It really is, and it's really a disgusting religion. And so, when there's a very interesting book out by a Jewish woman, and she wrote it, and she.
Now listen to this. I told someone about this, and they really didn't believe what I was saying. So we sat down and we listened to this, and then we actually started digging around just to see where we could find this kind of stuff, if any images and stuff like that.
She basically said, I was born Jewish, I was raised this way, but I don't want to do these things. And it's entitled A Hole in the Sheet. A Hole in the Sheet. And she talks about the sexual characteristics of the Judaic religion. And she's right about all of these things I found are in the Talmud. They're Talmudic. And they tell you about all these sexual things to do, one of which is on a certain night, you've been married like 10 years, the male has the right to go out and find another woman and copulate with her outside of marriage, only on the 10th anniversary of his marriage. But what he must do is bring a sheet with him with a hole in it. And then he puts the woman and he covers her with a sheet with only the hole, where, and then he does his thing with her.
Wait a minute. Now, is this a contemporary practice today?
It is it's not many Jews do it, but
if you're strict Talmudist, I guess it.
You do. You must do it. Yeah, Larry David on the Curb Your Enthusiasm had a segment on that. It was very funny, but he sort of made fun of it. But the Jews do it absolutely.
Well.
So, like I said, you don't hear too many brothers when they're explaining some of the stuff to us and why it's important to know this stuff and know what we're looking at, to also know when we got brothers on the streets, teaching us this stuff to point it out, like I said, you don't hear these perspectives. You hear them telling us, read the Talmud and stuff like that, but I don't know, like when you hear that's in there and you read these books or read, just like I said, these PDFs and they have some of this in there, it's questions, you know what I'm saying? So, like I said, this is maybe some of the stuff that should be brought to our attention, you know what I'm saying, and it should be stuff that we should know that was being taught by these peoples, and use it as ammunition, to prove that they are not who they say they are. And, these are not the practices. Where is any of this stuff in the Old Testament? Where is any of this stuff in the Dead Sea Scrolls, So, like I said, I just wanted to bring a different perspective here. Anyways, it's MW Smith and I'm out.
Oh.
Oh.